Hello, hey. Woo! Hello, everyone. Okay, so I'm waiting for everyone to grab a seat. Let's maybe you can place my first slide here. There's some chairs here if anyone needs. Okay. Oh, here we go. This is it. So, nice to meet you. Hello, everyone. Hey, okay, thank you. So, welcome to UX Night at Vinted. And yes, so yeah. Let's begin. First of all, I want to thank Vinted for hosting us. And Jonas, maybe you can come in for a few seconds because we are here in this wonderful place.
Testing.
Yes. So thank you. Thank you for hosting us. Tell us what's happening in Vinted these days.
So before that, I want to thank everyone for joining us. Thank you, Avi, for reaching out.
I forgot to introduce myself. Yeah.
Me and Avi agree on the importance of investing into communities and building these communities. So this is why we're doing that, and I'm extremely happy that here at Vinted we're actually able to host you and to do this. So it's a privilege. Thank you very much. When it comes to what we do at Vinted, always starting with our mission, I guess. Used to be making secondhand first choice. We elevated it a notch, and now we're saying make sustainable consumption first choice. I have a team around 70 designers, researchers, meaning product designers, researchers, comms designers, content designers, system designers, definitely forgetting someone. So all kinds of disciplines of designers, all working on essentially two businesses or two services. One of them is most known is the Vinted Marketplace. And the other one is our logistics company offering to ship all across Europe in the most, cheapest and most sustainable way. How we work with as a design team. Well, first and foremost, we're responsible to make sure that these services are working as best as they can to our users. The way we do it, we are structured in a way that we're covering entire user journey, so covering every kind of imaginable touch point, from the brand touch points to the product touch points to the offline touch points when it comes to our logistics services. We work with our multidisciplinary team, so it's not only designers, as I'm guessing most of you. And then, lastly, our job is to voice the users, the customers, and deliver solutions which are useful primarily, and then also usable.
Wow, okay. Yeah. Sounds like you guys are very busy here. Are you hiring?
Yeah, but...
are you the person to talk to if someone is looking?
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
Please reach out.
Thank you, Jonas. So we'll come back to you late in a few minutes.
Thank you.
But, okay. So thank you, Vinted. So I wanted to explain what is a salon. UX Salon is, by the way, my name is Avi, and I'm organizing UX Salon. And basically, the idea behind a salon was as a young designer, I used to go to many, many events. And I noticed that one thing was missing for me is this idea of meeting people after the talks are over, and more creating a place where we can actually create a discussion. So I thought it would be interesting to have a format where every time we have a presentation, right after the presentation we will have a short discussion with the speaker and with the audience, as a casual salon discussion. A salon in many languages is the living room. So it's like very, very casual. And this is what we're going to do today. Because we have 4 talks, we're going to try to make those salon talks very short and to the point. But this is the purpose of a salon, and to create a community and to meet everyone here and to network. And I'm going to talk about it in a few seconds. So let's do a little, because we're going to start exactly at 7. I have a little game, raising hands. The first option is, would you rather have a project with limited budget and tight deadline, or B, a project with a tight budget but unlimited time? So who goes for A? Okay. And B? Feels like more people would go for B. Interesting. Okay, next question. I've always wanted to know these things. So, would you rather work with a client who is very demanding and constantly changing their mind, or a client who is uninvolved and uninterested in the design process? Okay, so number A. Very few people. Okay, B? Ah, interesting. Okay, last one. So, would you rather design a user interface that looks like a circus, or one that looks like a funeral? A? B? 50-50. Okay, cool. So this is just to kind of survey. So this next thing, because we have a few moments, more people are looking for work, but very few people looking to hire. So anyone looking to hire? So stand up over there. You. Yes, you. What is your name? Isa. What company? Oh, okay, here we go. Here we go. The idea is that you're going to introduce what you're looking for. At the end, people are going to search.
I have a panic attack, and I'm right now in this situation.
Ah, it's okay. We're all friends here. We're all colleagues here.
Yeah.
What are you looking? What
I'm
company?
looking for UX UI, just like dev designer.
What company? What is the product?
What product? I don't know exactly.
I'm sorry, we made a mistake. We understood that who's looking for a job.
Ah, you're looking for a job.
We're not hiring
Okay,
at the
so
moment,
who is looking
yeah.
to hire? That's the question. Over there at the end, yes. Pass the microphone.
Hello, Povilas from Omnisense. So we're looking for a product designer for our integrations team. So if you want to join a nice
Okay.
team,
So
catch me up.
So you need to talk to him at the end. Yes. So at the end, make sure that you stay if someone is looking. More? Someone more? Okay.
Okay, I can go. Arvidas from PVKs. So we're working in a sustainable energy sector. So if you want to fight climate change, we're also looking for designers.
Okay, that's interesting. Okay, more? Anyone more is looking to hire? Where is it? Is there someone? Okay, come closer so we can see you. So there's a couple of chairs here if someone is standing. Where is the microphone? Okay, is it you? Who is looking to hire? Okay, no one? More? Okay. So, okay, we will continue. So it's a good place next time if someone is looking to hire, come back. And okay, so this is the schedule for today. This is now. And we're going to have 4 talks. And I want you to really just say, clap for the speakers, because I'm really appreciating that they all agreed to come and to say hello to us and to give us from what they've learned. So these are the 4 speakers of today. If there is time, we're going to try to stay here until 9. If there is time, we're going to do a networking game. This was last time, and it was really fun. People get to know each other and talk and discuss, and this is how we network. So if you can stay after we finish the last talk, we can get to know each other. And I want to say that design is a conversation between the user and the product, and words are the language that we use to make that conversation happen. And that's why I'm organizing also an event next month, which is called UX Salon Words. And it's basically, words are the building blocks of design. Without words, we cannot create these communications. And I've learned so much from people who are actually writing for user interface, the UX writers. And it's going to be 3 days, every day, 2 hours online. It's called UX Salon Words. So if you're interested to get to learn a little bit more and enhance your tool sets, go to words2023, uxsalon.com to get some more information about this upcoming event. Okay, so if you want to get in touch or see more, Facebook, UX Salon Vilnius, Instagram, UX-Salon, it's on Instagram. on fax. If anyone wants to borrow me his fax, I will. Okay, so that's it. Let's begin. I want to introduce Dominyka. This is how I said your name correctly, yes?
It's okay.
Okay,
I'm used to that. Dominyka.
Dominyka, okay, okay. So welcome to the UX Salon.
Thank you.
at Vinted.
I'm not sure where should I find where to?
Wait, they will load your presentation and then
Okay.
you can start.
Okay, yeah. So good evening, everyone. It is my pleasure to be here, even though I'm probably the only person here who doesn't really have anything to do with UX design. I know what that is, theoretically, but never had my hands on it, only as a user. But the topic that I'm going to touch upon tonight, I believe it's relevant for everyone, even if you are in the beginning of your career, or if you are kind of experienced already. Personal branding is something that is relevant to everyone. Some of us may not realize that yet, but I hope that after this presentation, you will. So, yeah, let's begin. Before I begin my speech, I will just tell a couple of words about myself. So basically today I represent two organizations or two brands. One of them is ISM University of Management and Economics, where I've been for the last 10 years teaching and leading business management and marketing program. And 4 years ago, well, 4.5 years ago, I was finishing my doctoral dissertation, and the topic was the impact of social media marketing on new venture performance. And during that writing process, when I was going towards the end of it, I realized that I forgot a very important variable in my model, and that was kind of like the personal communication in the context of social media marketing, because I realized that what leaders communicate, how leaders show up, also matters. And of course, it was too late, but I gave myself a promise that I'm going to continue this research later, and this is something what I'm doing now. But at that time, I realized and I thought, okay, so if I cannot research that, I will start consulting. So that's how Persona Cognita was born, and it's my brand, the purple one. So everything started with consulting individuals on how they should use social media and other channels in order to stand out, in order to find new opportunities. What I do now mainly is trainings for companies, and I train employees so that they can leverage their personal brands for their own benefits, but also for the organizational benefit, right? Because personal brands, they can strengthen the organizational image as well. So that's about me. And the first question of today is, what is personal branding in the first place? Because I guess a lot of us have an idea of what that is, but probably if I ask you to define it in a sentence or in a couple of sentences, your answers would differ. So when you see Vinted, let's start with a brand, not with a personal brand. What associations come to your mind, or what keywords come to your mind? The first ones. Clothes, what else? Sustainability, what else? Secondhand, vintage. What about Vinted as a workplace? Friendly, inclusive, big, modern, right? Okay, so we see a lot of associations. You all have certain keywords that come to your mind when you hear Vinted or when you see its logo. This guy, everybody knows him. What kind of keywords come to your mind now? Rich, what else? Capitalist. What else? Twitter, what else? Tesla, SpaceX, mental issues. Okay, so we see some personal characteristics. We also see some brands that this guy started in the first place, right? Again, you have a different set of associations about this person. What about this guy? Art, what else? Paintings, modern, pop art. Again, you have different associations, right? And our associations might differ from person to person based on the experience we have, or based on, how much we read about a certain person, or If we talked about companies, right, it would be based on whether we worked where, whether we have friends who work there, etc. So basically, when we define personal brand in very simple words, it's nothing more than a gut feeling that we have about other people, or basically a gut feeling that other people have about us. So by definition, we all have personal brands, right? Because other people can have an opinion about us. They can develop that first impression about us when they see our post on LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram or Medium or Twitter. They can develop that first impression about us when they first meet us during a networking event, during a conference, when they see us on the street, when they see us in a job interview, right? So we all have personal brands, whether we like it or not. But some of us use our personal brands intentionally in order to get those opportunities. And some of us, we don't think about that. So my goal is to kind of like introduce you to some opportunities and introduce you to some ways on how to start reaching out for them. So basically, when talking about personal brand, we can answer those questions: who we are, what do we stand for, what are our values, what can we offer to other people, what value we create, what do we represent, etc. And personal branding, the concept itself is very old. I mean, thousands of years ago, people would go and buy things at certain places, and they would buy those things from people who they trusted. Today, of course, we do the same thing, right? We buy things that we know. We buy from people that we trust, etc. But the official concept, it was only introduced in 1997 by a marketing consultant, Tom Peters. So yeah, it was like 26 years ago. So can you tell me why the popularity of personal branding, and why has it been booming over the last 10 years only? Exactly, very great answer. It's social media, right? If before only the rich or only the ones that had access or had power could access particular channels of personal branding, right? Like traditional media channels, newspapers, magazines, TV. It only was possible for a very small audience, right? So today, everybody, through the power of social media, can leverage their personal brands. And we will talk a little bit more on that later. And if you ask me why personal branding works, I think this is the best answer by a philosopher, Humboldt, who said that there is nothing more interesting than humans, right? We are curious people, and we are curious about others. Well, I'm not saying that all of us are, but I think the majority of us are. That's why we appreciate the content from humans more. That's why influencer marketing works, right? Even though we know it's an ad, we tend to trust it more compared to the post that comes from the corporate account. So if you asked me, what if I start doing something about my personal brand? What kind of benefits will it bring me? There are plenty of benefits, and let me just explain a couple of those benefits, right? So if people have a certain gut feeling of you, it helps you to stand out from the crowd. You're being remembered better than somebody else. So think of a situation when you're in the job interview, and if you have a stronger personal brand, you probably have some different things to say, or you show up differently, you do your homework differently, and that helps you to be remembered better. It helps you to showcase your skills, right? Because sometimes it's not enough to be great at something. Sometimes you have to show that you're great at something. It helps you to build trust and credibility. It helps you with connections and networking. It helps you with the earning potential, right? Because if somebody knows that you're great, they will be ready to pay you more for what you do. Of course, you can get more job opportunities, and you can express your unique way of working, your unique style. So there are plenty of options, right? It starts with the visibility, continues with the image that you may portray in the heads of other people, And then, of course, it leads to very kind of like tangible results. So when I started my persona cognita means a known person, if translated from Latin. I didn't do any advertising. I didn't do any sales calls. It was only me showing up on social media, mainly LinkedIn, and creating content, educational content about the topic. And I still only rely on that. Of course, today a lot of stuff comes through recommendations, but it's mainly content, right? So personal branding can help you achieve things without actually investing money in it, only your time. And of course, yeah, doing some homework about it. Does anybody recognize this author? Seth Godin, very good. So Seth Godin has written some pretty good, kind of easy but good books on marketing. And he once said a quote that basically marketing is a contest for people's attention. So I like to say the same thing about personal branding. That is basically a contest for people's attention. And basically it's all up to you whether you're gonna win that attention compared to the other people that are in your scene. So the next question is, so we kind of like got an idea of what personal branding is, what opportunities can it bring. So let's go to the more practical stuff, right? Where to begin when you want to start doing something about your personal brand. So, so when I started consulting on this topic, I knew I needed some kind of a model, because I come from academia, right? Scientific background, not scientific, right? Research background. I knew I needed a model that would put everything into the drawers and that would be very easy to understand. So that's how the 10C model was born. And we basically start with the challenge and goal. So first of all, when thinking about strengthening your personal brand, you have to understand what challenges are you encountering now. If you're freelancing, do you have enough clients? Maybe your challenge is to find more. If you're looking for jobs, maybe that's your challenge. If you are hiring and it's difficult to find the right person, maybe that's your challenge, right? So once you identify your challenge, you can think about your goal. So basically, what would a strong personal brand help you achieve? So that might be different, as mentioned before, different goals that you want to reach for a strong personal brand. Because once you identify what you want to reach, it will be easier for you to get noticed, to notice that this is actually coming coming true, right? That you're about to reach your goals. The second element, right? If you know your goal, you probably know who your audience is, right? So kind of like we get into the basics of marketing. Who is your audience, right? If you need a new job opportunity today, so who is that person who will make a decision to hire you? And how can you reach that person? We will talk about that a little bit later when we talk about channels. But basically, who is the person that you want to define you in one or another way, right? Or if we talk about personal communication, especially in social media, so who are those people that you want to share your content with? Who are the people you want to see your content, right? So if you can answer that question, it will be easier for you to proceed with your communication in the next stages. Yeah, so it could be your employers, it could be your industry peers. Perhaps some of you are happy with your job, but you want to become known in your industry as a go-to person when somebody needs advice, or a go-to person when somebody's organizing a panel discussion, or a go-to person when login conference organizers decide that they want a topic on UX design, right? Or perhaps clients. The third thing, it's about your character. And this is very important, right? So this element, it basically answers the question of how you want to be seen, right? What are the main keywords about you? What is your story? How did it turn out that you're a UX designer now, or in this industry? Have you always been here, or have you switched careers? Perhaps there is something interesting there. And when you know that story, you can own that story and, you know, make yourself known for that. Or when you're introducing yourself to other people and somebody asks you that question, perhaps there is something interesting there and you can share it. What value do you create, right? What value do you create for your audience? How do you differentiate? And I was looking up, simply by typing UX designer on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is my favorite social media channel, so don't judge me for that. But it's not the only channel that is useful. And I was like looking into that keyword, and different profiles showed up, right? I was choosing the US market for this specific case. And then I saw this profile that is up. Okay, it didn't stood out. Then I saw this profile, right? It had kind of like the clear value proposition. I help you attract the right people to your website and mobile app. And then there were some more keywords. Here I saw some additional keywords that it's not only a UX designer, but also a Stanford University Innovation Fellow, whatever, right? So what is besides our official position or job title that we want to position ourselves as? What are the additional keywords that we can show that will make us stand out? So you might want to think about that and then update your social media and other digital assets accordingly, right? So you don't have to update Instagram if you have it closed and only visible to your very close family circle, right? But those digital assets that you have public, why not make them work for you? Why not put those keywords that will work for you, right? So talking about the character part, sometimes it's not only about social media, sometimes it's about how you present yourself offline as well. All right, so Steve Jobs didn't wear the same clothes because he wanted to stand out. He simply wanted to spend less time in the morning. He didn't want to, waste his precious time for thinking how to dress. But it turned out to be his signature symbol over time, right? When I do public presentations, most of the time in my outfit, you can see the purple element because it's my brand. And I love it because then I feel that I'm living my brand. I'm not saying that you have to think of something artificially, but perhaps you already have some signature stuff on you, or you like to wear it, or you like to put a specific signature in your email. There are different elements that can make you stand out. Number 4, credibility element, right? So this element, it answers the questions of why should other people trust you as an employee or as a service provider. And the main question is whether you reflect that on different channels, whether your social media is updated with your most recent experience, whether when you're sending a motivational letter to a job interview, whether it's kind of like showcasing what you have there. Like, what is your education? What is your experience? Do you have any testimonials? Do you have any recommendations? So think of all those assets that can make you look more credible in what you do. Again, right, that's the same person I showed you earlier. This profile definitely stood out from the other ones that I was looking up very quickly. So make sure that those social media that you use for professional purposes, that they're updated. It's kind of a very easy thing to do and usually a one-time investment, right, of time. Because then you will only have to update it after you change positions or change your career direction, etc. Number 5, it's the channels. And when we talk about channels, we have to think of the answer to the question, where does the audience that you identified in the second step, where do you meet that audience? Do you meet your clients online, or do you meet them in conferences? Do you meet your employers online? Do you meet them in networking events? So we had some people who raised their hands that they're hiring, right? So perhaps, that's the audience for some of you, and you can meet them today. And think of whether you are on those platforms. If you know they're on Twitter and you're not on Twitter, and if you know that this is the only channel that they're in, perhaps you have to get on it. And don't forget one important thing, right? That when we talk about channels, we don't only talk about social media and online channels. There are plenty of offline channels that are equally important, right? So of course, when we talk about social media, when we talk about online, it's social media, it's blogs, it's website, whatever. When we talk about offline, so perhaps some of you have a goal to stand out within your organization. Perhaps you want to climb career ladder within your own organization, and perhaps your audience are your managers. So perhaps there is something you can do there. Perhaps you can organize signature meetings. Perhaps you can have some internal initiative, and you will be the owner of that initiative. It will help you to stand out. Conferences and events, right? So a quick question. How many of you would like to be giving a presentation, but there is some stuff that is limiting you? How many of you would like to be here and present? I see one hand. Okay, 2 more, a couple more. I think there are more, right? Perhaps. What are the things that are limiting you? But maybe that can become your topic. So maybe you can use this weakness, this limiting belief as your topic, right? But your credibility can come from different perspectives, right? From your interest in the topic, from the fact, I don't know your story, but perhaps even though you don't have like many years of working experience, perhaps you have that passion for a lot longer time. So think of other credibility elements that do not necessarily relate to your years of experience. But cool, we see some people who would like to share their stories, right? And conferences and events, they're great channels. Volunteering projects, right? So sometimes we can volunteer in a project, right? And this is how we strengthen our personal brand. Writing a book, writing a white paper, writing an article, publishing it. I know that Avi has a great story there. Perhaps he can tell it afterwards. Starting a podcast, inviting some industry experts, starting interview series. They don't have to be very polished, right? Perhaps you can use your Instagram or LinkedIn channel for that, for kind of like a fast interviews with somebody. The second element is the clarity part, right? So when it comes to clarity, it's basically answering the question, what do you want to be known for, right? Okay, there is UX design, but within the UX design, there are plenty of different topics. What are your key topics that you would like to be known for? What are those topics that you would like other people to associate you with? So I usually recommend 2 to 4 directions. Kind of like, for example, when it comes to me, I told myself that I'm only communicating in a professional context about marketing, personal branding, employee advocacy, and education, because this is the field that I'm in. I'm not talking about finance. Even today, right? Okay, it's a UX design event, but I'm not talking about UX, right? I'm talking about personal branding in that industry, kind of. Yeah, I was just looking up what could be the different topics, right, to choose from. I guess there are hundreds more. But maybe you can get some ideas what could be your key content directions. When it comes to the content specifically, here it comes to the implementation part. So basically, how can you use content to become known? Perhaps you can, do a series of articles. Perhaps it's going to be social media posts, etc. And think of those little details, right? Sometimes we think that they don't matter, but the devil's in the details. It's a great quote that I really like. Perhaps you can think of your signature hashtag. Perhaps you can think of the signature emoji that you will use throughout your content. Perhaps there will be signature visuals that you will be focusing on. We're moving to the end. Contacts, right? So basically think of the key people in your network that can help you with your personal brand to reach your goal. If you're looking for a job, who are the people who could write your recommendation letter or who could recommend you? If you are looking for more clients, who are the people that could write you a testimonial today? Want to start a podcast? Who would be the people you would invite first that would kind of like increase your own credibility? When it comes to your content on social media, again, who are the people that you would like to involve there? Number 9, consistency. And this is a very important element, because we may have some great ideas, and from time to time, we might do something about personal brand, but we have to be consistent in order to achieve great results. So ask yourself, how often are you willing, or how often can you be active in various channels to strengthen your personal brand? So I'm definitely not saying that it has to be every day, right? I'm not posting on social media every day. Usually on LinkedIn, LinkedIn is my main channel, right, as I mentioned before, and I usually do 2 to 3 times a week, and that's enough for me to be visible in order to achieve my business-related goals. Of course, there are some other offline channels that I'm using, and that's a lot, like 2 to 3 times a week, that's a lot. If you're only starting, you don't need that much, right? Once a month, doing something about your personal brand, for the beginning, it's already good enough. Yeah, if you can plan your personal branding efforts, that is also great, because then you see how consistent can you be as the time goes by. And finally, number 10 is the confirmation element. So if you knew your goal in the beginning, so here it's the time to ask the question, what will prove that your personal branding efforts are paying off, right? Are you getting more requests to come for job interviews? Are you getting more leads? Are you getting more invitations to speak at conferences? Are you getting, simply, more connections that want to be like people who want to connect with you, people who want to follow you on specific channels, perhaps? So there are different things, and it all depends on what you're trying to reach. Yeah, so for the very end, I have a quote that I also really like, and I think it's definitely true. So if you don't establish your personal brand, other people will define it for you, right? So you will allow other people to define it for you. But when you put effort into that, I'm not saying you can control it 100%, but you can be the storyteller of your own story. So thank you very much, and I hope, yeah.
Okay, wow. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
So I want to invite Jonas as well here, because there was an interior motive why we also invited you to this presentation, to present here. Jonas, perhaps you can take it away. Yeah.
Yes. Once again, thank you very much, first and foremost. What I noted down from your presentation, it's super important to be aware of who you are for yourself as a professional and as a person, and then to be active and causal, meaning in how you portray yourself. Yeah. So this is what I noted down. I was really curious. How do you define your own personal brand?
Mm-hmm. I think I mentioned it in between the lines. So I had the 3 keywords in the professional context that are about me, which is personal branding, marketing, and education. And by combining all those 3 keywords, I am who I am. But I also have a great tip, because I know it can be challenging. So sometimes we are struggling to define who we are and what we stand out. So during my workshops, I sometimes give this homework. Write a very simple email to 5 people, or if you can, to more people in your network. It's best if it's from the professional context, at least more or less, and ask them to answer the 3 questions. How would you define me? Like, what kind of keywords would you say about me if somebody asked you? If I wrote a book one day, what kind of topic I would write that book about? And basically, where do you see me in the future? Right? And then usually the answers sometimes come as very surprising, because I had, for example, one situation that comes to my mind is one lady, she was working in the, I think, events industry. No, she was in the consulting industry, but she was responsible for the events. So she did this exercise, and from a bunch of people, she got a reply, you're only about traveling, you're always traveling. And then she was thinking, but that's not true. I only go on vacation, okay, some city breaks, but then I go a couple of times per year. And the situation was that she, looked up her Instagram profile, that was public, and she would only post photos when she was traveling, right? So she wasn't setting the picture, right? Perhaps she doesn't need to do that on Instagram, but perhaps she can use other channels to really showcase who she is in the professional sense. Yeah.
Okay, I had a question, so to myself and everyone wondering, how do you measure how strong your personal brand is? How do you know when and what to work on?
That's a great question, and I didn't have a slide today on, but sometimes I do. There are two words in this context, right? So we have identity, and we have a brand or an image, right? So the identity is how we define ourselves, and the brand or image is how others do that. And I usually have the slide where I have two circles, and the more the people are defining you in the way that you would want them to, the stronger is your personal brand. So it's very difficult to measure, but it usually comes very intuitive when you are, you have certain goals, let's say, and then you're kind of like introducing yourself as XYZ, and then other people are coming to you and saying, I've heard that you're XYZ, so I want something from you. So that gives you an idea. So, I mean, for me, it's not social media followers, it's not like the numbers, but it's that intuitive feeling that actually other people see me in the same way as I am introducing myself.
Okay.
But that's a great question. Yeah.
What if I'm working in working in an environment where this type of feedback culture is not a thing? So, like, no one's coming up to me and saying, "Ooh, I think you are XYZ."
Look for the cues. I mean, sometimes, some people may not necessarily tell you that, but, a like or a comment that they will put under your social media post or under your post in internal Slack channel or Teams channel, I don't know what you're using, sometimes that comes as an evidence. It does not necessarily have to be public, or it comes during your, one-on-one conversations. So sometimes I think that you have to look for invisible signs for that.
Okay.
Or sometimes you just have to ask.
Great answer. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So are you going to be around for later for people if people want to meet you? Dominyka?
Yes, I will be around.
Yeah, okay. So she will be around if you want to ask a question later. But we want to talk a little bit because this is in relation to this last talk. Organizing, maybe you want to say, maybe you just want to start. Okay.
Sure. So first and foremost, to all the people who raised their hands when Dominyka asked, like, do you want to be here and, share your work, share your ideas? Please contact me, Avi, here, or email us, LinkedIn us, whatever. We want this stage to become a place where designers and people who generally care about design, not specifically only designers, get to share their work and share their ideas, regardless of experience level, regardless of anything. So this should be an open space, an open salon, which welcomes ideas and is open for, first and foremost, learn, link up. So that's the whole purpose of the thing. So step forward. If you had the courage to raise your hand, have the courage to say hi to Avi.
Thank you. Yes, so I want to say that one of the hardest things to organize this thing is to find people from the audience, from the crowd, and people who are interested to contribute. Because as we want to create a personal brand, we also want to create a community. And this is one of the reasons I came to you first and I said, let's do these events because we want to create a community. And if we can't find speakers, these events will not be. So I want you to step up. If you need help in your presentation, if you want to talk to me, I want to tell the story that she was telling that many, many years ago, I had an idea to write an article. I wanted to kind of, I started as a UX design, and I found some topic that I was really passionate about, and I was really ashamed to publish it. I thought everyone knows it. I thought it's like such rudimentary that like people will see of me as as a junior. This is the kind of my mind I had. I published it anyway. And it was tweeted for 3 days straight, every 3 minutes. And from that article, I got to speak around the world. I was invited to conferences around the world. So it's just a subjective feeling. Sometimes we don't really aware that we actually, if we learn something, it's actually very meaningful. And people can learn from our experience as well. So I encourage you all to come to me or to you and to get the next event rolling for the speakers. So that's it. So thank you. So for our next speaker, Ida.
Sorry.
All right. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you for having me today. So my name is Ida, and today I'll speak about navigating the complexity while collaborating with legal. It doesn't sound very exciting, but I hope you'll still get some valuable insights from this presentation. Where's the clicker? Oh, nice. That's quite a spotlight. Is it on? It's not collaborating with me.
As Mia and Avi said, the remaining 3 talks will be designers sharing their actual work, actual learnings, should be super tangible and super fun. Very different backgrounds, very different experiences. So enjoy.
Yeah, so we got it working, all good. So hello everyone, my name is Ida, and oh my god, that's a bit stressful. Thank you. Thanks for all of your support, it really helps. And I sound so loud, I don't know, that's so weird. Oh. Okay, let's try to jump into this presentation. A little bit about myself. So I'm the product designer here at Vinted. I've been working at Vinted for almost 3 years now. And I've been working mainly on the transactional domain for all those 3 years. And besides work, I do have a cat. And and also last summer, I've been in Portugal. And I tried surfing there, and I really fell in love with it. So I know Jonas is doing some surfing as well. So yeah, that's very cool, if you would like to try it as well. So what we'll talk about today, so in general, what does legal have to do with design? Because I think when you think about it, it's not very natural to make that connection. And in the second part, I'll share my learnings and the process of the transparency project, and that transparency project was related highly to legal. Also, I want to ask you, who of you worked on the project where legal was involved? So maybe you can raise a hand. Oh, nice. I actually expect that there will be less people. Cool. So during this presentation, I think some of those learnings I'll share, they'll be transferable. So they might be useful for you in other projects as well. So just to start with, so what does legal have to do with design? In general, I think if you work in the startup or in the small company, it's not likely that you will be working with legal. But when the company grows and gets more users and gets more exposed, yeah, the company gets more exposed to those certain legal risks. And also some industries might be more regulated than others. So let's say healthcare, and that means that you will not be able to put any content you want to. These are some of the examples and some projects that might be related to legal. So some of the, let's say, privacy, GDPR, compliance, discount display, transparency, terms and conditions, copyrights, collecting and saving data. All of those projects might be related to legal, and you would work with legal very likely if you had those. Also, I think I had this idea from maybe Jonas or from some of our teammates that legal and design are working together for the user's good. So maybe it doesn't sound very intuitive, but some of the laws and some of the directives, their goal is to protect the consumer. So sometimes you might get this, okay, we need to add this disclaimer over here. it doesn't seem like it's working for the user, but in general, when thinking about the bigger picture, it does work for the users good. And in the second part of this presentation, I'll share the learnings. So let's jump into them. So we had the problem. So we displayed buyer protection fee at the checkout. And this is the screenshot of the Vinted app. And we can see over here that we have buyer protection fee and we have some amount. So before we had checkout in the Vinted app, I would like to remind you that Vinted operated through messaging. So people would message to each other, they would transfer money to each other. And when we introduced the checkout, integrated shipping and payments, we added the buyer protection fee over here. Also, the buyer protection fee, just to let you know if you never use the platform, is the fee that Vinted charges for customer support, for what we mentioned, for this ability to use the Vinted app and have those integrated payments, shipping, and also it covers the, if you get the item, it's not as described, it's broken, you can return it, basically. And also we knew from user feedback that seeing this fee earlier in the flow would be more convenient, and for them it would be more useful basically to get to know about the total price and to evaluate the total price. And also, where does legal come in here? Last but not least. So there's this directive, Unfair Commercial Practices, that says that let's say this buyer protection fee needs to be presented at the invitation to purchase. So this is the problem we had and we needed to solve. Also, we checked, did others have a similar problem? So maybe you remember Airbnb. There was quite a lot of buzz, I think like a year or so ago, when there was a lot of talks about the Airbnb, that when you go to checkout, the price is totally different. It's much higher because of those additional fees and so on. And they also made the change when they wrote that total earlier, basically close to that price, which you see over there. Also, Booking is doing something similar, Sixt as well, so it was more of a trend in the other apps because of that directive that I mentioned previously. Yeah, so this is what we had before. So before we had this disclaimer, like under the eye icon, that some additional fees apply. And after solving this problem, we had, as you can see over there, there's the item price, and below there's the item plus buyer protection, and that fee is displayed much earlier. So we didn't have that before. So when looking at those two, it does seem like a small change, right? Like it seems like, okay, we just need to display the fee and that's it. But to be honest, it was most of the complex projects our team worked on. And I would like to dig deeper why it was complex. So we needed to balance those different stakeholder requirements. So we had the legal team, we had business scalability, we had the user needs and the engineering limitations. So we needed to kind of like find the best solution to cover all of those. Also, we had a very limited time to gather our first insights, and we had only 2 weeks from understanding the problem, alignment with different stakeholders, to hand off to developers to solve this. So it was a very short time to do all of that work. And on top of that, if you can imagine, we had the price display, and there were many screens and features affected by this change. And some of those screens might be, let's say, home screen, search results, item page, conversation screen, some bundles. That's the feature, offers, liked item, seller side, all of that, where we display the price, basically needed to be adjusted to that new display. So what learnings we had from working with this shebang of, requirements and different flows and so on. So I'll share all of those. So first of all, I would say in any projects, I forgot the word. Not exactly with legal projects, but with all the projects, basically. I think the first step is to clarify the problem before going into the design suggestions. But what I notice from my personal experience that it's very easy that some stakeholder will come and say, okay, we need to display this over here like that, and without going in too many details about the problem area. So it's really important to clarify it first. A little inside kitchen over here. So we had the Figma Jamboard where we broke the problem down to better understand the problem and to ask some additional questions. So as I mentioned at the beginning, so there was this legal article that required to display the price at the invitation to purchase. So we had additional questions. Okay, so what's that invitation to purchase? Is that the buy button? Is that every time there is a price on item page? So we needed to clarify those details and ask those additional questions. After that, I think that another learning through this process was that related to the time management. When it comes to ideation and alignment, it's very useful to come with those rational recommendations and not questions when gathering feedback. So let's say explaining the design, the rationale behind it, and why you think that this is the let's say the most scalable or the best design from the design perspective option. So in order to gather that feedback from those different stakeholders that I mentioned previously, so we had these feedback sessions with different stakeholders in the room where we presented the designs and we had those notes. So, okay, so what do we think, what are the insights from the design perspective? What are from the legal perspective? What's from the product? And on top of that, we had the engineering estimation. So all of that later helped us to prioritize. And when gathering that feedback, it was quite important to separate the personal opinion from the legal risk. I think it's very human to give feedback on the designs, and when you're gathering that feedback, to get this mix. So to get this mixed feedback. So we are still working on this. I think it is still in progress, and I'm not sure if you had any similar communication problems, I guess. but yeah, basically, I think it's in our team. It's still in progress. It's much better now, by the way. Also, what was really important in this quite a big project, to scope it down and to make some trade-offs. So we had those options, and there were quite a lot of them. We gathered feedback, so we needed to prioritize, and we dropped those options. Mainly based on the transparency level and engineering effort. And also along the way, when we were digging deeper into this project, we made some trade-offs for A/B testing. So let's say we were cutting some flows to A/B test only some particular parts of the buyer flow, but not going into this whole all of those flows that I mentioned before. Another thing is about being proactive versus reactive. So I also mentioned this very short 2 weeks deadline that we had, and this whole situation was very reactive. So we also had some discussions with the legal team and with the product team as well, that we need to aim for being more proactive to better plan our projects. So our legal team has the risk register, basically where they have the list of their risks, and then it might be given to, let's say, product teams that are being able to plan them better into the quarter work. So in general, this project took us 8 months of testing. We released 5 A/B tests, and we had 8 design variants developed. Also, now we have the scaled solution for displaying bioprotection fee, but we are still working on this project, basically solving some UX debt that we left and so on. So we are still working on it. So now it's, I think, more than a year, so quite a lot. I also would like to share the designs that we had, that we developed and we A/B tested. So the first one is basically we had very little change. We had the bioprotection fee under this eye icon. We also tested some different displays of displaying that fee under the item price. Then we had this combination of it, also with the total. And the last one was when we combined it and displayed it as a single fee. And what I learned from those, that it seems like a small change, but it can have a very big impact. So all of those variants, they had quite a big difference in business metrics. So ones performed very well, some of them performed very badly. Then we were thinking, oh my God, that's a very big difference. Through this whole process, I was thinking, okay, so what would I do differently? So we didn't do any pair design that I think would have been very useful to move faster with a bigger confidence and to have those design solutions ready to go. And we didn't do it because I think I just didn't feel very comfortable with that at that very time. But later we tried with some other projects and I saw how much value it brings. So I think it really helps to speed up things. And from all of this project, I think in general the main takeaway is about having a plan and trust the process. Because when there's some uncertainty and you want to manage that uncertainty, it really helps to put it into the plan and steps what you're going to follow, and also trusting the process, that those parts of the process really helps to figure out, and even if you don't know at the very beginning how the outcome will look like, it really helps with the flow. Yeah, thank you.
Hey, and we have Ida. Thank you very much. We have time for 2 questions, and because, well, I know it'd be awkward if I ask the questions. Who here has questions?
So, really short question. What is pair design? You mentioned it as a good solution.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the pair design is when a couple of designers get together, get their minds together, and they co-create. So basically, that's like an ideation session when working together and ideating together, bouncing ideas off, and it's like a design critique, but 10 times faster.
Hi, Ida. I have a small question. I have two questions. First question would be, if you could you share which solutions were more suitable and worked better? If it falls under confidentiality, then my question would be, what solutions were perceived better by the users, like the ones that were combined solutions, like two solutions that were placed in a single line and work together, or those solutions that were basically a lot of different lines or icons, like depicting each of the modules of the pricing?
I would say that's pretty confidential. I cannot share the data or anything like that. But the solution we scaled and we have currently at Vinted app, that's the one that performed the best. And also from usability testing, that was the most aligned with the user needs.
Okay, thanks.
So it aligned.
Let's do one more.
How large was the team working on this feature?
So it was our single product team. So we have, the product team is made of the engineering manager, product manager, designer, and data analyst, and then the engineering team. And in the engineering team, there's the backender, frontender, and web designer. So in total, there's around 10, 12 people, and also those external stakeholders. So let's say 2 people from legal, a couple of people from business director, and our design director was also involved in the project. So I don't know, roughly I would say 15, 20, something like that.
Well, not all of them worked on it full time, worth mentioning. Yeah, but yeah. Ida, thank you very, very much. A round of applause for Ida.
Thank you.
And now I want to welcome Daumantas to the stage, yet another Vinted designer. So, round of applause for Daumantas.
All right, so hey everyone. I'm Domantas. I'm a product designer, so hi to everyone who's in here. Hi to Mom. So I'll be talking tonight how defining non-negotiables before starting a project can really help you make more easier decisions. So first of all, there is this mythical creature called perfect design. I'm not sure if you have ever encountered it in the wild. I personally haven't. I haven't even worked on creating one. And but every one of us are striving to create a perfect product. And when we are thinking about perfect product, we usually think of many different good product characteristics, such as simplicity, efficiency, accessibility, aesthetics, and there is many more. However, when we are working in product teams, we don't have ideal solutions. Usually we have very limited resources, we have limited time, and sometimes limited wisdom. So then we need to make some trade-offs, as Ida mentioned previously, and we are choosing what to deprioritize for a particular project or product. And it's very important to know a way how to methodically, let's say, to deprioritize or prioritize things, because sometimes we might end up deprioritizing things that shouldn't have been deprioritized, or sometimes missing something that should have been prioritized. So today I'll be talking why we need to prioritize when building products, how non-negotiables could come and help you in this whole process, how to apply it in my work, and how to define your non-negotiables if you would want to. So, in general, why we're prioritizing things for MVPs? MVP meaning minimal viable product, basically proof of concept that you want to release as fast as possible. because we want to launch it as quickly as possible. Why we do it? So that we could reduce time to market. Basically, we don't have all the time and we always on a short deadline. Also, we need to reduce risks by getting indications and feedback from users, basically getting to understand if you're moving towards the good direction. And also, of course, save development costs, because you might end up not overdeveloping features, because sometimes there is just like right solution for right person and you don't need to spend all of the time building everything that might not be needed for that. So rule of thumb, when we are prioritizing for the MVPs, the one that at least we are trying to have is cut everything that's not a must. While in the very early years of, let's say, my career, I was working hard on getting to know what is perfect design, how can I make one, and what do I need to think of when designing things. However, right now we spend quite a lot of time what we don't need to spend time on. So there is a risk when we're thinking that we need to cut as many details as possible for the MVP, the ones like to think of the best characteristics of it. There is a risk of cutting too much. There is a risk to cut core functionality of your product or project. So here, non-negotiables come into play. So what is a non-negotiable? So non-negotiable, I define it as is a statement defined in advance that lets identify where compromise cannot happen. So it's important to note that it's not a replacement for an objective product goal or user needs. Also, it doesn't mean that the designer comes up with some, it's not only designers thing to come up with, it's a team effort. So before starting any kind of project, we, at least right now, trying what to do to align what are the most important things, what we are trying to achieve, and what we should not maybe put that much effort into. So some might say that it might sound similar to design principles. So it is similar, but it's a bit more specific. So if you would Google design principles, you would find many various examples, and some of them might be quite ambiguous, general, or an abstract. For example, put user needs first, good design is invisible, or strive for creating meaningful experiences. While they're great best practices, but I think that any kind of product should be following them, and they do not inform really well designers when they're making decisions. Not only designers, product teams when making decisions. So non-negotiables are more product or project-focused statements that let's make those decisions easier. So how do I apply it in my work? So before I start, I want to give some context what I'm working on. I'm a product designer right now working on Vinted Go. So Vinted Go, maybe a year ago, and we would have said that we are just shipping service that we are offering other companies. We are signing contracts with carriers and different shipping providers, and then we are reselling these contracts and these kind of prices to other companies. However, around months ago, we became not only a shipping service, we became the whole shipping company. So right now we have our own lockers in France, we have our own delivery vans, we're basically a carrier. So when it comes to having all these kind of things as a product, we need to have a place where we, for example, noting down all the shipping prices that we agreed with carriers, because we both work with shipping carriers and customers whom we are selling our service. So this is the product that I was working on. This is like shipping integrations admin. Basically, there is a person who signs a contract, and we have to have a tool which where all these prices, all the parameters would be filled in. So many years ago, we had like internal Vinted admin, which looked all right, I guess. It did its purpose, and like it solved lots of things that it needed to solve like many years ago. However, when we weren't thinking about the future at that time, because we didn't even have an idea that we would become a shipping carrier, a shipping platform so that we would be reselling shipping services to other companies. So the process also wasn't really well fitted for, because like every month we would introduce more functionalities to it, and in the end we had a huge form around, the person needed to fill in around 500 manual do 500 manual inputs in order to set up an integration. So what we did, oh, sorry, so what were the reasons for redesign? So as mentioned, there were like too many human errors, and human errors were really costly for us because one missed number in filling some parameter could actually result in lots of monetary losses for the company. It was also difficult to onboard new people to using this platform, to this administration tool. And also in general, the process to set up any kind of integration was very time and effort-wise costly. So basically, all the reasons for redesign came from cost-saving opportunity. Basically, we thought that, not basically, too many basically in my words, sorry. So we thought that, okay, we could do something in order to save money. So this was the before, and we made some redesign. So I'm not going to go into details that much about the redesign itself, because like it's separately whole product. But I'll walk through these non-negotiables that we defined in the very beginning that helped us along the way to basically have better communication and to know where we are prioritizing or deprioritizing something in our development process. So how these non-negotiables sounded for our product. So first one, we knew that we need to build a tool that is prone to human error. As mentioned, human errors were too costly. That means that we need to, when we are developing features and tools, we need to make sure that there is no risk for manager or administrator to make a mistake. Whew, just a sec. The other one. So the tool had to be scalable in terms of shipping network growth. What does it mean? So every month we are signing new contracts with carriers, and it means that the tool that we build, the tool's usability that we build should not suffer based on how many integrations we have and how many customers we have. The other one, we knew that there's lots of repetitive work for managing those integrations, so we said that it has to be optimized for repetitive work. Because our main users were the people who were signing contracts and who were like having basically, we wanted to enable them creating the impact instead of focusing then on administrative work. So this is why we thought that, okay, let's do everything what's possible to minimize this tedious and repetitive work. And the last one was 0 time spent on face-to-face onboarding. We knew that lots of more people are coming in to use this product, and we didn't want to spend we wanted to spend as least as possible time on onboarding them. So that meant that we need to create a product that has as low as possible learning curve. So, okay, in action, some of the examples. Okay, before you get into details, I want also to mention that these are the examples I'll show will be very user interface specific. However, these non-negotiables not only inform UI decisions, but also how product teams work. Meaning that they should also, that all the developers should be involved in the very beginning when you are defining, so that the solutions that they will develop themselves would also be following these non-negotiables. So some of the UI examples. So we said that the tool has to be prone to human error. So what we did, we introduced very strict constraints for input fields. So while that means that people wouldn't be able to fill in letters into numbers input and so on. So while it sounds a very kind of basic hygiene thing to have, because like it's such a no-brainer, details that matter here. So the thing is that if someone would have made a mistake here, as mentioned, the losses could be huge. Also, we said that, okay, so let's not rely on what people already know. Let's introduce validations everywhere where possible. So, for example, it says that when you're creating new route, we would be checking if this route already exists. So again, these sound like a very kind of no-brainers for every product if you would be building. But I remember we were having discussions before the MVP where people would be asking, so should we really include validations into MVP product? Because, well, we just can cut it off and release the product, I know, a few days earlier. And since we knew that human errors are very costly, potential errors very costly for us, we said that no, we don't. We do include all the validations everywhere where possible. The second example was that 0 time spent on face-to-face onboarding. So also quite straightforward change is that if we knew that there were some risk of misunderstanding what particular term means, we would include a tooltip, for example. We did the same with user onboarding. We said that, okay, even though we didn't have many users, we would still want to optimize their onboarding processes for that. And the last one, yeah, we said that it needs to be scalable in terms of shipping network growth. Okay, brief. So we said that, okay, since we said that the usability should not suffer based on the amount of data, the number of data, we said that, okay, meaning that it should be easy, it should be managing one, let's say, integration as easy as managing 100. So thus we added bulk edit options. The same happened with inline inputs. We thought that, okay, we need to optimize work, how something could be changed, so we did that. So, results of the redesign. So overall, we managed to reduce the effort of this project from like 500 inputs required for one integration. We made it to possible of approximately 50. There were signs of easier onboarding. What I mean by signs, because we don't have many users. There's only like 7 or 8 users right now, so all the examples were really anecdotal. And yeah, at the same time, we also introduced new future-proof functionalities. So, and the non-negotiables helped us to move quicker and have easier discussions with team while keeping everyone aligned. So basically, it saved us time for all the discussions that we had. So, how to define your negotiables?
Come on, Daumantas! Woo!
Thank you. So, a good non-negotiable recipe. So, first of all, non-negotiable should be experience-oriented, related to your specific project or product. The second one, it has to help identify where not to or where to compromise. It should be guiding designers and also teams that design working on, or maybe sometimes there is no designers in a team, that also could happen. They have to make easier decisions. And lastly, I think, it comes from the problems that users are already, the problems that are already being solved. So you may ask, what if I don't have a project yet, and what if a product yet, and if there's any problems yet? So you could think of biggest risks that there are, and think of a statement that could potentially prevent these risks. So, a recap. So, prioritize what should fall under the MVP scope for quicker and faster results. Oh, sorry. In order not to deprioritize too much, non-negotiables come into play and they help to keep everyone on board. Non-negotiables can inform decisions and maintain alignment within the team. Non-negotiables come from existing problems and product goals, and for it to be effective, it has to be experience-oriented. What a rhyme. And yeah, so there's also, like, if you have resources, you might also check one-day, full-day course on NNG Group. It costs a fortune, but it was really very worth it. So yeah, thank you very much. And yeah.
Thank you, Domantas. We have time for one question. Make it count.
Hi, thanks for presentation. It was a very interesting topic, and I wanted to know what is the process of defining the final ones, the final non-negotiables. You mentioned that developers have to be involved, right? So how does it look like?
So I don't have a perfect project just yet, but what really helped us, because this was also, I forgot to mention that didn't end up as a perfect product, of course, because like we also had lots of bottlenecks along the process. However, what I realized what is key to before starting some in general discovery, you should have like, we call it like inception sessions, where you include all the stakeholders, not only developers, but also like teams from other people from other teams that might be working on it, and then have some sort of like workshop. So like there is some already, I know, probably like from even design sprint kind of methodology to say what's the most important things. Basically have a priority matrix. We sometimes use this map where we say that this is like biggest impact, this is lowest impact, this we should be prioritizing or not. So I wish I would have a framework to give it to you. However, I don't have it because like everything what I did was just kind of, it happened, and I'm glad that it happened. And right now, like I realized that it works, and I'm trying to apply it for my further projects.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Daumantas. And for our last talk today, please welcome to the stage Povilas Grigas.
Ačiū. Am I loud? Yeah. Okay, let's wait for the slides. Hope it works. That's awkward. Like, no slides.
Yeah, we can clap. Let's clap for slides.
Clap for slides.
Povilas, tell us a fun fact about yourself.
Ooh. I've been looking for the perfect pair of shoes, and I think I found it. This is my second pair of the same shoes. So, and I also, like, another fun fact is that I don't clean them. So any stain is the stain that it will gonna last.
A round of applause for Povilas' shoes.
Okay, so imagine it's the summer, you know, the colors are warm, you're driving a vintage Golf, you're eating juicy watermelon, you're on holidays with your friends or a lover. It seems like it's very familiar, you kind of remember it, even though you didn't even drive a vintage Golf. It's magic. Well, like not that kind of magic, it's this kind of magic. It's like the smell of flowers or the movies that take you to a different world. It's the music that you'll remember for the rest of your life. It's also this, and this, and this. So what am I talking about? Well, don't really know. So this is going to be less of a PowerPoint presentation and more of a kind of story time presentation, because I'm going to talk only about my experience because that's the only thing I know. So what does it mean designing magic and planning user memories? So story one. So imagine one day I get a message saying, asking me if I'd be interested in designing something for the weed industry. So I do what everyone does and just close the window and just delete it. I agreed. The brief was make a product under $10. Oops, how can I can go back. Make it non-metallic, and make it smell-proof, and it needs to be packed in a group of 4. And, as a regular designer would do, you just do the research, do kind of the brainstorming, kind of take the brief and materialize it into a product, a physical form, kind of taking everything and just making it super simple. So the end result was just 4 cylinders in a case, and those cylinders a really quickly openable, what is it? Snap-on caps. And then we tested it. with users. So we gave our product and the competitor's product. And even though, like, on paper, our product was way better, they didn't like it. They gravitated towards the competitors, and we didn't really know why. So we got back to the drawing board, as they say, looked deeper, kind of did the research all over again, spoke to different people, more people, tried to really understand what the kind of the thing, the culture is really about. And one day, just like the magical thing like happened, and the answer was the ritual. So the preparation is like one of the most valued parts of the process of smoking. And it's the growing anticipation of the eventual reward that is really kind of satisfying. So I designed like a screw-on cap, which took time to unscrew and open. And because a normal kind of cylinder shape wouldn't work, I created a shape that kind of lets your fingers in so you can unscrew like even the middle cylinder. And it worked. So magic is kind of, there's magic in ritual. Yeah, and another thing that I want to mention about this project is that because the true collaboration aspect where the users and the client did almost as much designing as I did. So the kind of the product ended up growing like a flower instead of like the designer or like the designer making the drawings and then somebody building it. So it's less egoistic and more kind of beautiful. Yeah, so when it's more like a generative process, it tends to create more magic. Story 2, so true collaboration. So I once read an article by James Buckhouse, and he mentioned like a 4-word story, which basically what he meant is that any complex or big or small idea can be summarized by just 4 words. For example, organize everything you love. That's Pinterest. Connect the entire world. Facebook. And Google is easily find useful information. So, like, I found it intriguing. So I tested it. A group of like Finnish students approached me, asking me to design their visual identity. Their endeavor was called Catalyst. Yeah. So the first meetings went like this. You know, I asked them, so Catalyst, what is it about? And they talked and talked and talked. And I understood what they meant and what they were doing, but then I answered. Then I popped the question, guys, tell me, what do you do in 4 words? And in that meeting, they couldn't answer it. And just to answer this question, they organized like a 3-hour-long workshop just to answer it. And are you guys ready for the answer? Mission-drivenly incubate a community of founders. And I'm like, guys, mission-drivenly is not one word. Plus it's A and of. So in the second meeting, we reduced it to this, like incubating a founder community. And that was the moment when everyone could start working. Because everyone was on the same page. And now the team could build their own kind of visual identity. So again, like the normal, usual process, you know, researching like who they were. I talked about like how do I perceive them, how do they perceive themselves, the kind of the competitor analysis. I showed them visuals. They didn't like it probably the first ones, but in these meetings, you know, in the process, the team kind of grew together. It understood each other more, and the team bonding, as you can see from the scientific curve, it grew. Yeah, 3 directions. You know, in visual branding, you have 3 directions. That's usually how the business is done. but we didn't do that. We kind of winged it. We used prototypes and discussion, and we did what felt right. And yeah, it worked. I like Rick Rubin, how he put it, the formula that worked yesterday might not work tomorrow. So it's kind of wise to not use the same formula over and over again if you know that last time it worked, so maybe this time it works, probably not. Yeah, and maybe it's like this process of like kind of the frameworkless process takes a little more time, and it's very unpredictable. But like the IKEA effect is real. When the client builds their own thing, the bond is like really incredibly strong. So yeah, at the end we ended up with like a dot motif where the dots represent kind of the stone structures and also people in community. And yeah, when looking back, it's kind of everyone has left like how do you say? Like looking back and thinking about like this journey of growing, for everyone it left a pleasant memory. So yeah, when it's like true collaboration, no compromises, just like true collaboration, that's where magic happens. But sometimes there is no magic. Like sometimes it's so terrible you don't want to remember it. Yeah, we were once tasked in creating an illustrated book, and at first, like everything went great. Ooh, forgot the slide. Oh yeah, so yeah, mind you, this was at a time when I thought like I was a genius, that I couldn't make a mistake. Like I'm the magic, and that's who. And if I'm in a group, the group will do great. And everything went great at first. You know, we were very full of enthusiasm. The idea was great, but then this problem started to happen, and like the enthusiasm dwindled down to where we weren't enthusiastic about it at all. Our kind of strategy of execution was too ambitious. We didn't have enough time. Basically, this is how it looked a few days before the deadline. We were super angry, exhausted, no sleep, no food. It was terrible. And yeah, we made excuses like it's supposed to look like shit. Like, of course, yeah, that's the goal. And then only when it came time to present it, you know, when the deadline came, we realized that we failed. You're standing there and you're thinking to yourself this is the worst thing I've made. And I've tried as hard as I could to make it great, but it turned out completely opposite. And it changed me, it really changed me, and I think it changed everyone in the group. But looking back, you cannot blame anyone, or I cannot blame myself or the others, because everyone tried as hard as they could. You know, we were just pushing something that wasn't meant to happen. And yeah, one of the big realizations, the character arc, is that I realized that I'm not the magic, that the magic is kind of somewhere else in the cosmos, and a tiny sliver of it is kind of maybe I can kind of touch it, but it's not me. It comes from somewhere else. Yeah, magic, you can't control it. Sometimes it just happens, but you can create a space that allows it to happen. So yeah, story 4. The last story, by the way. We got this was kind of happened recently. We got a brief from Narbutas asking us to design the future office. And we immediately started thinking oh, what's our space? Where do we work? We tried working in different spaces, tried hybrid work, working from home, ultra mode, working from home. Then we tried having meetings by walking, and maybe even doing projects walking. We tried taking more breaks, less breaks. We analyzed our own past office experiences. We asked like others about theirs. And what we found is that people don't need a more comfortable chair or a more sound insulating pod to work more. People need to work less. And it's kind of like funny, but it's true. Like, it's true because when you think about it, we work so much, but like only a tiny sliver of it is kind of productive work. And when you look at like the current office experience and you look at how it got there, you know, from the 1726, you see like quick fixes after quick fixes after quick fixes. When technology kind of ramps up, the office needs to adjust. Like the screen, the keyboard, the phone is not the end-all solutions. You know, there's something better than looking at a screen all day. And it's this, we think. It's going back to nature because like the most natural way of being is being in nature. So we propose that in 10 years, the future office will look like this, you know, no traditional chairs, no kind of screens, nothing kind of like a traditional office looks like. And yeah, you're just sitting on different things, kind of letting your body rest, maybe like walking more, talking more, no screens, like you're not watching, you're kind of doing something else. And we don't really know what that else is, you know, what will replace the screen and the displays and the keyboards, all the input stuff. But through our research, we found that optimizing our current solutions will not get us far. And it's only like kind of worsening our health, actually. Yeah, so when kind of the designer or the creator or the artist thinks from the ground up, you know, with no kind of preconceived notions, when when somebody asks what's the future of office, you can say we'll live in Neanderthal times, and that's again where magic comes. And just what is magic? Just getting back to the beginning, it's like the package that makes you feel like you're making your own yogurt, you know. It's the seamless connection that lets you kind of undistracted work for like something that you're passionate about. And it's like the raw materials that make you feel in tune with nature and life. And when designers have purpose and are skilled and the team is supportive and the producers are masterful, the quality of magic appears. And that the magic is what's remembered. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Povilas. Great talk. Let me open up my notes. So we heard a story about emotion, collaboration, failure, and beginner's mind. I have a question for each story.
Okay.
Starting with the emotion, how do you think about balancing function and emotion when designing things?
Well, I think with the first project, I tried to really kind of stress, maybe I didn't stress enough, the fact that if you're only looking at the brief, you won't get the thing that you kind of want. You know, the customers won't like it because it's kind of it's functional. So if you're looking at from the functional, only the functional prism, you kind of make on paper what's best, but in reality, it's not something desirable. So yeah, but again, like you have to make it functional and then make it emotional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Regarding a great topic, collaboration.
Yep.
What are your personal learnings? How do you get a group into that vibe, which is truly magical and I'm sure you know rare?
I kind of found that I usually get in the way. Like, I know like the current structure is like there's an art director and there are like designers under them and like the creative director. But I think that the true collaboration and what kind of matters most is hearing like perspectives from everyone. And so I don't really believe in a kind of hierarchical opinions or like ideas or visions. So I haven't, again, like I haven't had enough experience in like a big team to test out my theories.
Yeah.
But that's the heart feeling, like that's how I
Yeah.
feel in the soul.
No, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Moving on, failure. How do you survive that, and how do you recover to be better?
Taking long walks. Really long walks, like unexpectedly long, like 3 hours long, like, yeah, unplanned walks. And then, I don't know, for me, I'm kind of like to get everything over in my head and then everything is fine. So I need time.
Okay, that's a great advice. Speaking of advice, last story, beginner's mind. Might be a major asset. We just heard someone saying, well, but I'm just starting my career. I can't talk here.
Yeah.
What advice would you give someone whose inner imposter is louder than that beginner's mind?
There's a great story of like what is it? The first kind of AI that beat the Go. What is it? Go, AlphaGo. Yeah. Thank you. So the reason why it won, it was not because it knew more than like the opponent, which was a human being, but because it knew kind of less. Like when it made that like the 37 move, it like nobody expected it. Nobody knew, oh, this is a good move, oh, this is a bad move. Everyone said, oh, nobody's made that move before. And it ended up being like the thing that won the game for it.
Great answer. Round of applause for Povilas. Thank you.
Okay, we're done. So I want to say thank you for all the speakers. Please clap and they are still available if you want to talk to them. What time is it now? Okay, so we have 20 minutes for networking. If you guys want to stay, if anyone wants to leave, feel free to go. And thank you for coming, and we'll see you next time. And we're going to arrange for small networking groups if you want to stay. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for coming.